恭请大德圣听，为此法会急切众生，请传妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，殊真无生。Well, the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attempt bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha, welcome back. This is lecture number 154 of our exploration of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. Okay, let me get my slides here. So what you see in front of you is a saying by the Buddha, or part of a sutra. The Buddha says, monks, learn the Atanatiya protection. That's a Paritta, very close, is considered in the family of mantras or Dharanis. So study and hold in your hearts the Atanatiya protection. Monks' beneficial is the Atanatiya protection for security, protection, freedom from harm, and living in ease for monks, nuns, and male and female lay followers. So in the Theravada canon, they don't have mantras, but they call it Parittas. And today we have a very interesting section about Parittas. But let us finish the part about mantras first. But as usual, before we get there, I know I'm going to get silence, but I'm going to ask. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Keeping my fingers crossed. No? Okay, why? I tell you why I'm always asking for questions. It's because when I prepare the slides and prepare for the lecture, it is me thinking what should be shared. And it is all only from my perspective. It's only through my mind, okay? But when you ask questions, any question doesn't have to be on mantras, any question about the Dharma, it makes the Dharma come alive because it's pertaining to something that you've been thinking about or something you want to know, to find out. And at the same time, it's fun for me because I then have to not only understand your question, but understand how to what is the best possible answer based on what I understand. Yeah. So yes, questions. All right. Okay, let's move on. You can type in the chat box. You can ask in Chinese, as long as it's a question. Okay. So first, I have something from Buddhism A to Z. This is from Shufu. Shufu says, Dharma Master Gushan. The secret mantras contained in sutras as a rule are not translated. In the past, Dharma Masters held various opinions about this, but the Tiantai school compiled them into four opinions. But unfortunately, I don't know why, I only have 3. Okay, so the first one is this. First one says a mantra contains the names of kings, of ghosts, and spirits. Depending on the mantra, sometimes the mantra contains Buddha's names. The kings of ghosts would also be, for example, the 4 heavenly kings. For example, their names. Then it says, when you say the king's name, their subjects all obey due to their respect for the Lord. They dare not cause trouble. This is the benefit of bringing happiness to the world. This is like same principle as if you have children and the children are misbehaving and their parents are nearby and you call their parents' name and then they get scared or afraid. Yeah, same thing. Okay. Now, the number 2. The saying of a mantra is like the secret password of the military. If the reply is correct, there are no further questions. If the reply is incorrect, one is then properly dealt with. This is the benefit of bringing goodness to humankind. Okay, there's no elaboration of what it means if the reply is incorrect. Maybe, I'm guessing, based on last week, what we learned is that Shufu says that in order for the mantra to work, you have to be sincere on your part. You have to hold the precepts. You have to be pure. And then Shufu said the efficaciousness of the mantra does not lie in the mantra, but in the response. So you have to evoke a response through the mantra. And if you are not pure, then as we learned last week, there are sometimes repercussions. It's like if you're a criminal, you don't dare call the police because you get arrested instead. Yeah, something like that. Number 3, a mantra is a secret way to stop evil without anybody knowing of it. This is just like a lowly person who goes to another country and passes himself off as a prince. He marries the princess of that country, but he is bad-tempered and hard to attend to. Then somebody comes along who recognizes him and reveals his disguise. That person uses a verse to expose him, quietly putting him in his place. This has the benefit of correcting situations and stopping evil. There you go. Very good example. Excuse me. Okay, now we go to Shufu's commentary on our sutra, the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. This is what Shufu has to say about the mantra itself. In this sutra, The Medicine Master Buddha mantra is known as Medicine Master's true words for anointing the crown. All right. True here has several meanings, but it will be interesting to remember the word true because when we get to the Paritta part on the role of protective chants in the Theravada world, true or truth plays a huge role. Okay, all right. So Shifu says, a part of the mantra of the two Buddhas, which can be found in the daily recitation manual of the chant school. Why is Shifu mentioning the mantra of the two Buddhas? Because he says the mantra of the two Buddhas says, two Buddhas proclaim and transform in the Saha world, Ashobhya in the east, Amitabha in the west. So that's why at DRBA, I'm not sure about temples outside of DRBA, like temples in Taiwan, China, all those other Mahayana temples. But in DRBA, Shifu set it up. Shifu explained. Shifu himself said, "Yeah, we are different from other temples. In the morning, we sing praises in our morning ceremony to Medicine Master Buddha, because Shifu says our affinities are closest with Amitabha Buddha, and the second Buddha with closest affinities to us is Medicine Master Buddha, Ashobhya Buddha." So Shifu set up the ceremonies at CDTB, and our branches we follow is in the morning we sing praises to Medicine Master Buddha, we recite the mantra, and when we circumambulate, we recite Medicine Master Buddha's name, and then for lunch is for Shakyamuni Buddha as our teacher, and then in the evening it's to Amitabha Buddha. So that's why on alternate days we recite the Pure Land Sutras, and then when we walk circumambulate, we recite Amitabha's name. Okay, then Shifu says, if one transgresses any of the 13 major Parajika precepts and is afraid of King Yama, one should diligently repent and reform, and one's offense will be eradicated. I have put 13 in brackets because usually for monks there are 4 major Parajika precepts for monks. And what does Parajika mean? Parajika means to be defeated. And if you are a left-home person and you break the 4 Parajika precepts, you automatically are not a left-home person anymore. Why? It's because you totally defeat the purpose of leaving home in the first place. For example, sexual conduct, stealing. Those things go. If you are a proper left-home person, will never do any of those things. So if someone who has left home and they do commit an offense, then automatically they are no longer left-home people. So I'm not sure where 13 comes from. For the Bodhisattva precepts, it's 10 major precepts. I just don't know where 13 comes from. I just need to find out more. Yeah. Okay. Shifu goes on to say, although such an offense is basically unpardonable, if you sincerely repent and reform, it can be eradicated. The mantra of the two Buddhas is one of the dharmas of hooking and summoning. When someone has a sickness caused by a ghost, this mantra can be used to summon the ghost. Although the mantra is very efficacious, very few people know how to recite it, and even fewer know how to really use it. These true words can neutralize all poisons and eradicate all offenses. And this is the last slide that we have on Shifu's commentary. Shifu says, if you sincerely recite them for a person who has been poisoned, it will neutralize the poison. But it won't work if you recite casually. This mantra is a very important part of the sutra. What sutra? The sutra that we are reading right now, the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. When you don't have time to recite the whole sutra, You can just recite the true words. It is a short but indispensable Dharma. This sutra is also called the Sutra for Eradicating All Karmic Obstacles. Now that we have learned about this method of practice, we should constantly recite the Medicine Master mantra so that we will be safe from disasters and so our good roots will grow. Okay, I just need to drink some water, excuse me. Okay, now we will move on to continuing from last week. Shufu's commentary from the Shurangama Sutra. This Shufu on the Shurangama mantra. Shufu says, esoteric Buddhism focuses on the study of mantras and their meanings. Buddhism is divided into 5 schools: Zen, teachings, precepts, esoteric, and Pure Land. The Zen school practices meditation. The teaching school explains and expounds on the scriptures. The precept school strictly upholds the Vinaya and is dedicated to maintaining discipline. The esoteric school deals with secret teachings unknown to outsiders. So last week, Shifu said this is people are more familiar with Lamaism, or like the Tibetan school, Vajrayana Buddhism. That's what esoteric school means. And then Shifu says the Pure Land school focuses on chanting the name Namo Amitabha Buddha, which is called the Pure Land school. So there are some temples that you go to that exclusively recite Amitabha Buddha's name. They are Pure Land temple only. Only you people there do not meditate in the chant style. But then there are some monasteries who they don't recite the Buddha's name. You can as a personal practice, but they revolve around the meditation schedule. Okay. She says, within these 5 schools, some claim that Zen is the highest. Zen is also Chan. Okay. Zen is the Japanese pronunciation from China. Chan went to Japan, they call it Zen. Others that the teachings are the highest. Others still that the precepts are the highest, while practitioners of the esoteric school claim that their practice is the highest, and Pure Land followers believe their method is the best and supreme. In reality, these methods are equal. No method is inherently superior or inferior. The perception of superiority is based on personal preference and liking. It all depends on which is most suitable for you, which one works best for you. And Shiva says, now let's discuss the esoteric school, commonly known to most people as Tibetan Buddhism or Lamaism. The esoteric school isn't truly secret. In the esoteric school, there is an integration of esoteric and exoteric and esoteric teachings. Many mantras, like the Great Compassion Mantra, the 6-syllable mantra, which is Om Mani Padme Hum, and the Shurangama Mantra are esoteric. The term esoteric means that the effects and powers of these mantras are unknown to others. So Shufu is trying to explain, because when Shufu was teaching this in the US, Buddhism was still very new. And just like in China, before the first Petrarch Bodhidharma, when people's understanding of Buddhism was very shallow, it was based on the form and not on the spirit of the teachings. So when Shufu was teaching this, there were a lot of people who misunderstood, or maybe in the audience or at that time, or maybe did not have the right understanding of what secret school means. Okay, maybe even now people don't really understand. So Shufu says, many people who do not understand Buddhism believe that secret teachings are the best because they are not openly transmitted. Some ignorant people further mystify this by saying, I can't tell you it's a secret. Well, there are some, I'm not sure if they are Buddhist groups, but there's a group that have undergone scandals, and the teacher will claim to give every student a special mantra which is exclusive to that student, and that the student cannot share the mantra with anyone else, because if they do, then their mantra will be ineffective. And so what Shufu is trying to say is that people who do all those things, they're just preying on people's ignorance. So Shufu says, if it is truly esoteric, they wouldn't even mention it. So saying, I can't tell you is still a form of revealing it. This lack of understanding of what constitutes esoteric Buddhism leads to these misunderstandings. So in other words, if something is truly secret, you won't even hint at, Shifu's logic is really solid. If you have something that's really a secret, you won't even tell people you have a secret. You won't even hint for people to find out. Then it's not truly a secret anymore. That's Shifu's logic. In truth, mantras themselves are not esoteric. Esoteric Buddhism means that when you chant a mantra, your spiritual response is unknown to others. Similarly, when I chant a mantra, my spiritual response is unknown to you. This mutual unawareness of the effects and power of the mantras is what is truly esoteric. It's not the mantras themselves that are esoteric, but their power and efficacy. There you go. If a mantra is truly secret, it shouldn't be passed on. Once it is taught to someone else, it is no longer secret. So secret means nobody knows. Truly, no one knows. Yeah. This reminds me of a story which was told to me by excuse me, by Joey, I think Joey Wang. When I was at City of 10,000 Buddhas, he was taking care of the front office, the administrative office, and he had been there for a long time, maybe, 20 years. So he has a lot of stories about Shufu. And I think he told me this story. He said there was once when there was a nun whose leg was swollen. I think they were outside the rebirth hall at City of 10,000 Buddhas. No, outside the Long Life Hall. And people were surrounding the nun and they were reciting the Great Compassion mantra, Tapicho, on her behalf. And then nothing was happening. And then Shufu came. And then Shufu came in his golf cart. Then he got down from the golf cart. He looked at her leg. He pointed his finger at her leg. And then Shufu just recited one line from the Tapicho. Only one line. And if I'm not wrong, if I remember the story correctly, to everyone's surprise, they could see the swelling on the leg immediately get better in real time in front. And then Shufu just went back to his golf cart and drove away. Yeah. So, but that story does not really explain what is going on when Shufu says secret. Secret just means the response is revealed. You know what's going on. Other people don't know what's going on. It's kind of like if you have a headache. Even if when you have a headache, only you know you have a headache. Something like that. So Shufu says, what can be spoken of is not esoteric. If it's truly esoteric, it shouldn't be transmitted. The esoteric lies within you, not in the words that are spoken. All right? So even esoteric Buddhist masters may not fully understand what esoteric Buddhism entails and might think that the mantras are secret. However, mantras can be transmitted and spoken about. There are no mantras that cannot be spoken about. If they can't be spoken about, then they can't be transmitted either. This means that the essence of esoteric Buddhism cannot be communicated directly. All right? The essence of esoteric Buddhism is its power and efficacy. When you chant a mantra, the benefits are known only to you. Like tasting water, you alone know if it's hot or cold. This personal experience is what makes it esoteric. The power, response, and efficacy of the mantras are esoteric, not the mantras themselves. Okay, again, when people get attached to the form, they think the mantras themselves have an efficacious nature. But Shufu says, no, it's the response of the mantra that makes it efficacious, not the mantra itself. Right? So some people, they tattoo on their bodies this protective chants like the Parittas. I think in Thailand it's a custom, and they think that it will protect them. Well, yes and no. If you believe in it and you have confidence, then if you practice and you follow, if your belief leads to proper practice, then yes. But if you rely on that alone, but you don't change your bad habits, and you are, you don't practice, you don't hold the precepts, then no, because you won't evoke a response. So Shiva says, do you understand now? People who don't understand Buddhism might disagree with me, but I'll say what I think is right. If you disagree, it's because you don't understand. I may be confused, but my teacher explained things to me clearly, turning even a confused person like me, meaning Shifu, into someone who can explain the 6-syllable mantra, meaning the Om Mani Padme Hum. All right? Okay, now we are going to move to Parittas. And before we do that, again, keeping my fingers crossed. Anyone have any questions? Anyone?
I have a question, Dharma Master.
Yes,
What if you don't hold the precepts, but still practice and hold the mantras? Is that still going to be efficacious?
if you don't hold the precepts, then what do you mean when you say still practice?
What I mean, I haven't taken my 5 precepts, but I still practice Buddhism and chant the mantras. Is that still okay, or I have to take the precepts?
Oh, okay. Do you mean what if someone hasn't taken the precepts formally, but would like to follow the practice of the precepts and then they also chant the mantras? Is that your
Yes.
question? Okay.
Yes.
Precepts, yes. Of course, there is the formal taking refuge and taking precepts. There is a formal ceremony to go through, and but until then, if the conditions are not right for that to happen, the precepts, what the precepts ultimately are, is to help you, excuse me, help you regulate your body, meaning your actions and your speech and your thoughts. Thoughts come first because actions and speech follow from thoughts. So for some people who have been unable to formally take refuge and take the precepts, it's okay. Just maintain the taking refuge means anything happens in your life when you need advice, you follow the Buddha's Dharma, you follow the sutras. Instead of, say, some people, they follow shopping, they shop to make themselves feel better. Some people drink or they take drugs to make themselves feel better. Some people go on holiday. So they take refuge in all kinds of things, retail therapy and all that, hobbies. But if you have taken refuge, it means that when it comes to daily life, you use the Dharma as your guide and how to guide you. That's what taking refuge means. And so if you haven't been, for those who don't worry if you haven't had the opportunity to officially take refuge and the precepts, you follow them as if you have. Then when you finally take them, you already have how you say a lot of stored up merit already. Okay, it's like if you can't open a bank account, it doesn't mean you don't have to save money. You can still save. Then when you finally get to open a bank account, your savings will be as if you had opened a bank account from day one, and then you don't lose out. Maybe you just lose out a bit on interest. Yeah, but that's it. Okay, does that make sense, Saha?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Dharma Master, I have
Yes,
a question.
Suiling. Yes.
Okay, why in Theravada Buddhism, or rather Theravada Buddhists, there is no formal ceremony for them to take the 5 precepts or the 3 refuges? But in Mahayana Buddhism, there must be an official ceremony whereby the monks transmit the precepts to you. So why is it like that between Mahayana and Theravada?
Okay, I don't know enough to be able to answer your question properly. What I do know, okay, is when the Abhayagiri monks, the Thai forest tradition monks come to Berkeley, what happens is that before the Dharma talk begins, they have they request for the Dharma, and then they also request for taking refuge and the three precepts. So there is a ceremony where there is a set, there is a fixed way of asking, and the monks respond in a fixed way, but it's not as formal as so you can join that ceremony many times, but it's not as formal as what I'm familiar with, say like at DRBA temples, where you get a booklet, it's signed, and you have the shufu becomes your shufu. Yeah, Rebel Master becomes your shufu at that time officially. So I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I'm not going to guess. I'm not sure why. Yeah. But they do have a ceremony, and you do have to request from left-home people. You can't take it from lay people. Does that answer your question? I mean, I know it doesn't, but
yeah, because the Theravada temple that I go to, there's no monk that is officiating the ceremony, like the transmission of the precepts. But of course, we do chant the 5 precepts and the 3 refuges. But there's no formal ceremony, by any monk, who transmits the precepts to you. So I'm just wondering. Thank you.
You mean any monk can transmit the precepts? Is that what you said?
No monks is transmitting the precept. No one is transmitting the precepts. But during the morning recitation, but during the morning recitation, or when they do the recitation, they do chant the 5 precepts, and the 3 refuges. But there's no monk who is officiating or transmitting the precepts to the lay people. Like like in Mahayana Buddhism.
I think you might have to request. You request, and then
I don't think so. I don't think so. There's no. I don't think there is any ceremony, nor any monks are officiating it. You just recite it on your own, and it seems that by reciting, you are already taking the precepts when you chant the 5 precepts. So there's no need for a monk to transmit the precepts to you.
Oh no! I don't think. I think that is more like reinforcing the precepts you have taken when you recite along the chanting, but to formally to receive the precepts, you have to request from a monk. Yeah, they don't do a big ceremony like everyone do at the same time. But so what happens is, if someone were to sincerely request, then the monk, I'm not sure what customs are in the temple, but any monk would be able to then transmit the refuge and the precepts. Any monk. But you have to ask.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that is the custom.
That means you must request.
Yes.
That means you must request for the monk to transmit to you.
Yes. And then it's done just between the monk and you, or maybe your family, depending on how many people. But they don't hold. Yeah, it's not like.
I see.
Yeah, I'm not sure about other Mahayana temples. I don't know anything about other Mahayana temples, but it's not like DRBA where we only do it once or twice a year, and then people register and then they all come together. Yeah. For Theravada
Yeah, it's a very
temples,
formal.
for Theravada custom is not in that like big huge formal thing. It's more of a personal setting that you request from the monk.
So
Okay.
does that mean that if you were to recite the 5 precepts on your own without the monks transmitting it to you, does it mean that you have the precept substance or no?
I don't believe so.
So there's no
Yeah.
precept substance.
Yeah. In Theravada they don't talk about precept substance in the first place, but in the I believe to formally take refuge and take the 5 precepts, you have to request from a left-hand person.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, the scale of the ceremony, like I said, is different. Is in the Theravada is more intimate. It's just you and the left-hand person. Yeah. Not everyone together.
Okay, thank you, Dharma Master. Thank you.
Okay.
Dharma Master, I have a question, please.
Yes.
Taking refuge with the Buddha is different than actually taking the 5 precepts and be transmitted by a monk to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when you take refuge with the Buddha, do you still get a booklet or no?
I couldn't make up what you just said. You said when you take refuge with the Buddha and then?
So when you take refuge with the Buddha, who at the temple that you go to, do they still give you a booklet, or is only taking the 5 precepts that they give you a booklet with Shifu's name on it?
I think when you take refuge, you do get a booklet, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
But okay, so when you take refuge with the Buddha, you do get a booklet with your Buddha's name on it, right? Is that correct?
You're asking about DRBA, right? Under Shifu?
No,
No?
I'm asking. It was another temple that I went to a long time ago. I took refuge. Yeah, so it was a nun. It wasn't a monk. So when I took refuge with the Buddha, she gave me a booklet with my Buddha's name on it. So is that the same as? Because I'm confused. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, so your question is that the same as?
Is that the same as taking the 5 precepts or no?
Oh, okay. Taking refuge and taking the 5 precepts are 2 separate things.
Okay.
And whether someone has taken the precepts together with the refuge or only taken refuge, you would have to know for yourself what happened during your ceremony.
It wasn't it wasn't a ceremony at all.
Okay, but during, you wouldn't you know if you had taken the 5 precepts?
No, because she couldn't speak English.
Okay.
I just did it because I believed in the Buddha at that time.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you can look at the booklet and see what that booklet says. Yeah.
So taking precepts, when you take the 5 precepts, it only has to be transmitted by a monk. It cannot be transmitted by a nun.
No, I think it can be transmitted by a nun as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure. Don't take what I say to be. Don't rely on what I'm saying. I'm not sure, but I think you can.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, so when I say that, there's the how you say, there are two things at play. One is the culture and one is the Vinaya. If I'm not mistaken, according to the Vinaya, yes, nuns can transmit the precepts. But by culture, for example, at DRBA, because we have monks, usually it's the monks that do it. But from the Vinayas, so it's more of a tradition thing. But from the Vinaya point of view, I don't think there's it has any restrictions on that. All right. Okay. So just now, Sa had a question, and I was going to say that the Parittas will reveal about the role of virtue, and we will come to that. So what are Parittas? Okay, this is from a monk, Thera. Thera means very elder. I think how many years? 30, 40 years you become a Thera. Pia Dasi, he says, Paritta in Pali or Paritratna in Sanskrit means principally protection. Paritta Sutras describe certain sutras or discourses delivered by the Buddha and regarded as affording protection. This protection is to be obtained by reciting or listening to the Paritta Sutras. So technically it's pronounced as suttas, but same thing. The practice of reciting or listening to the Paritta Sutras began very early in the history of Buddhism. It begins during the Buddha's time, actually. The word Paritta in this context was used by the Buddha for the first time in the discourse known as Khanda Paritta in the Chula of the Vinaya Pitaka. What do all those means? Vinaya Pitaka means the Vinaya canon, the canon of precepts. And the Khanda Paritta is a collection of a larger collection called the Chula. And also in the Anguttara Nikaya, under the title Ahi Sutta or Metta Sutta. This discourse was recommended by the Anguttara Nikaya is a collection of sutras that if you have joined the WhatsApp group where I share a daily sutra, if you see sutras at the end, I always provide not just the name of the sutra, but the number of the collection of the sutra. AN, if you see the abbreviation AN, it refers to a sutra from the Anguttara Nikaya collection. All right? Okay. So this discourse was recommended by the Buddha as guard or protection for the use of the members of the order, meaning the monks and nuns. The Buddha in this discourse exhorts. I don't know why I cannot pronounce, maybe it's my throat. To cultivate metta or loving kindness towards all beings. Okay, so this is known as the very first Paritta. Then now we have Venerable K. Sri Dhammananda, who is a very famous monk in Malaysia. He was the chief abbot of, I think, the Brickfields temple, and he came to CDTB before and was a guest of Shufu. So he says, Paritta chanting or Sutra chanting is a well-known Buddhist practice conducted all over the world, especially in Theravada Buddhist countries, where the Pali language is used for recitals. Many of these are important sutras from the basic teachings of the Buddha, which were selected by his disciples. The sutras that Buddhas recite for protection are known as Paritta chanting. Here, protection means shielding ourselves from various forms of evil spirits, misfortune, sickness, and influence of the planetary systems, as well as instilling confidence in the mind. So the reason I'm sharing quite a bit, I have more slides coming up about Parittas, is because I think a lot of Mahayana practitioners who are not familiar with Theravada Buddhism are not familiar, do not know that there's this whole Paritta chants in Theravada Buddhism, and it is a very common thing, especially in the Sri Lanka Buddhist tradition. There's a formal book of Paritta chants that consists of 24, they call it sutras, 24 sutras, and there are several sutras, 3 that are always chanted when the monks were to, if you invite the monks to your home, either for a meal or say you buy a new house or there's a birthday or an auspicious event and you invite the monks over, they recite that. Whereas for us, Mahayana Buddhists, we don't have that. We don't follow after the same custom But how you say? Okay, so for the Theravada, in Theravada Buddhism, is there is a custom. Okay, it's you kind of know what to expect. People, the monks don't deviate from the formula. Whereas in Mahayana Buddhism, if you invite monks over to your home, sometimes they will chant the Heart Sutra. Sometimes they may chant the rebirth mantra. It depends. There's no set formula. Yeah. All right. And I learned a lot of information that actually applies to mantras as well. Reading about Parittas. Okay. So Rebel K. Sri Dhammananda says, when the sutras are chanted, or the Parittas, also known as Dharanis or mantras, you can call them mantras as well, three great and powerful forces are activated. These are the forces of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Buddhism is a combination of these three jewels, and when invoked together, they can bring great blessing to mankind. The chanting of sutras for blessings was started during the Buddha's time. Excuse me. Later, in certain Buddhist countries such as Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Burma, this practice was developed further by organizing and prolonged chanting for one whole night or for several days. With great devotion, devotees participated in the chanting sessions by listening attentively and intelligently. Intelligently here means with inner reflection. You're not just one ear in, one ear out, but you're actually reflecting of the principles of the sutras against your own understanding. Okay. There were some occasions when the Buddha and his disciples chanted sutras to bring spiritual solace to people suffering from epidemics, famines, sickness, and other natural disasters. On one occasion, when a child was reported to be affected by some evil influence, the Buddha instructed his monks to recite sutras to give protection to the child from the evil forces. This is just like Shufu's story from last week, the black hat woman. Yeah. For the last 2,500 years, Buddhist devotees have experienced the good effects of sutra chanting or Paritta chanting. So when he says sutra chanting, here he's referring specifically to the 24 Paritta chants, okay? Excuse me. We should try to understand how and why the words uttered by the Buddha for blessing purposes could be so effective even after his passing away. It is mentioned in the Buddha's teaching that ever since he had the aspiration to become a Buddha during his previous births, what do we call this? Bringing forth the Bodhi resolve. Okay, Faputi sin. That's what this is. The Buddha had strongly upheld one particular principle, namely to abstain from telling lies. So from the moment the Buddha had his moment of Bodhi resolve, his Faputi sin, and this is recorded. I can't remember right now, but if I'm not mistaken, at that time, the Buddha was known as Sumedha. Yeah, I can find out. If anyone's interested, next week I might share the story. If anyone asks, okay, so if anyone has any questions, you know what to do. His name was Sumedha, and that's when he made the Bodhi resolve. Okay. And after that, the Buddha never told a lie. That's what Bodhi resolve means. That when you have the Faputi sin, when you have your past karmic seeds activated in you to evoke that response that, okay, from now on, I'm going to turn away from all the, I'm going to turn away from all conditioned phenomena and work towards Buddhahood. That means the samsara. Turn away from samsara towards Buddhahood. And to save all living beings, you make that vow. It's only really a Bodhi resolve when it effects a change in you. What kind of change? Like the Buddha, no more lies. That means, no more lying, that kind of change. So without abusing or misusing his words, he spoke gently without hurting the feelings of others. Okay. What is this called? It says the power of truth. The power of truth has become a source of strength in the words uttered by the Buddha with great compassion. However, the power of the Buddha's words alone is not enough to secure blessing without the devotion and understanding of the devotees. There you go. Okay, it needs two. One are the words, or like the mantra. The other one is the devotee. The miraculous effect experienced by many people in ridding themselves of their sickness and many other mental disturbances through the medium of the Buddhist sutras or the Parittas enabled them to develop their faith and confidence in this form of religious service. Okay, sounds exactly like how mantras, how you say, describe. Okay, so now we come back to Venerable Piyadasi Thera's explanation. He talks about the efficacy of Paritta chanting. Okay, Shovu also talks about the efficacy. He said that efficacy is not in the mantra itself, but in the response. So how do you get the response? So it says there are four things, okay, four factors that you need, all four factors. They say several factors combined. So what is the first one? The power of truth. Second is the power of virtue. Third is the power of loving kindness and compassion. And number four is the power of sound. Power of sound is also very interesting because if you have experienced the Avatamsaka syllabary, which is a mantra, is made up of the 42 letters and the sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet. That's the power of sound. Okay, all right. So what is the power of truth? He says Paritta recital is a form of Sacha-kiriya. What is that? An asseveration of truth. In other words, a declaration of truth. Okay, if you have read many sutras, you will, or you understand the principle, you will realize how important this declaration of truth is. Okay, and we'll come to that. I think we have enough time to finish this slide and then question time again. Okay, so Thera Piyadasi says, protection results by the power of such a declaration. This means establishing oneself in the power of truth to gain one's end. The recital concludes with the words, this is Pali, Itena Sacha Vajjena, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but it means, by the power of the truth of these words, may you ever be well. The belief in the effective power to heal or protect of the declaration of something quite true is but another aspect of the work or the efficacious nature ascribed to the Paritta. Okay, so now the word Sacha-kiriya, okay, in Pali is a compounded word. What does that mean? It means you bear witness. You either have witnessed it, or you realize it, you experience it, or you have attained it. So it's known as a solemn declaration with regard to the truth, and it's usually is part of you do it in a very formal way. It's a ritual, not in the sense like there are many steps, but the steps come from when you need to evoke a response. Okay, so it says most often found in Buddhism is a utterance with regard to one's own virtue or with regard to a certain fact followed by a command or resolution. Okay, I'm going to ask everyone a question now. What does that sound like? Okay, I'm going to repeat what I said. It can be an utterance or saying with regard to one's own virtue or with regard to a certain fact followed by a command or resolution. Okay, 10 points to anyone who wants to guess what that sounds like. All right, I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it, and I'm going to continue. All right, and so I can drink. Let me drink some water, and then I'll let that sink in. You know what? Maybe let me copy that, and then I will put it, share it on screen. Oh, how do I? It doesn't let me copy. Hold on. And, oh, it doesn't let me copy. Oh, let me try again. Paste. No. Okay, let me end this show. Okay, then let me copy it. And then... Okay, now I can copy. All right. Then let me paste it on this document. Okay, let me share. Too big. Okay, there. Okay, let me drink some water while I'll let you all read that. Okay, all right, let me share the slide again. Okay, so where were we? So a declaration of truth presumes a moral force of truth that is operating in the world, and this is said to be stronger than gods or humans. Okay, it's a force that overcomes, seemingly overcomes cause and effect. Okay, what's one example? All right, there's this story, I'm sure you all know about it. The Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, in his past life, he was known, Shofu calls him the patient immortal, the sage who was practicing patience. And he was practicing in the forest, and then the king came with his concubines. You all know that story? The king came with his concubines, then the king went hunting, and then the concubines found this yogi. I'm not sure if it was in a cave, but they found this yogi that Shofu says looked less than human. Because he just sits there, and I think birds made nests in his hair, and you know, he wasn't paying attention to how he looked. And they kind of woke him up from his samadhi, from his concentration, and he started teaching them the Dharma. And then the king came back from his hunting in a bad mood because he wasn't successful in his hunt. And then he got jealous when he saw the yogi or the rishi talking to his concubines, because the concubines were more interested in him than the king himself. And then you add that to his bad mood, and you have a recipe for disaster. So what did the king do? The king challenged the yogi and asked him what he was doing. He said, "Oh, I'm practicing patience." And then the king thought he was bluffing or wanted to prove a point. So chop off his limbs, chop off his hand or something. So I think also the nose or the ear, something like that. The king did very terrible things, all to provoke anger. And every time after chopping off a limb, the king would say, "There, you have to be angry now, right? Aren't you angry with me?" Until presumably there was nothing else to chop off. And then the king said, "Well, you have to be angry with me now. I don't believe that you're not upset with me. You don't have the slightest bit of anger in you." And the patient immortal said, he made a declaration of truth. He said, "If I have given rise to any anger or hatred towards you, then my limbs will not grow back. I'm ad-libbing, I'm paraphrasing. Basically what he meant was, if I had been truly been patient and have not given rise to any anger, my limbs will grow back. And his limbs grew back by itself. And then this frightened the king, thinking the king thought that he was a freak, and the king wanted to he ordered for the forest to be set on fire so that it would burn this rishi. And then I don't remember the exact nature of the story. There are various different, in Theravada Buddhism, the story is slightly different from Mahayana, and then depending on who's telling the story is different. Probably because, like me, I don't remember the story 100%. But according to Shufu, what I remember is that the patient immortal, when his limbs grew back and the king wanted to set the forest on fire, either the ground opened up to swallow him into hell, or the Dharma protecting spirits had enough. Their patience had run out. Not like the patient immortal, they had a limit to their patience, and they wanted to punish the king. But the patient immortal said something like, in the future when I become a Buddha, you will be the first I will save. And guess what? When the patient immortal during our time became Shakyamuni Buddha, the King Kali, that's his name, King Kali, from that who chopped off his limbs, was what's his name? The very first sage under the Buddha. He was one of the first 5 disciples. Oh, I can't remember his name now. Oh, this is embarrassing. How can I not remember his name? Thank you, Gary. Venerable Kondana. In Pali is Kondana, because in the suttas, after the Buddha taught them the Four Noble Truths, he was the first one to open his eyes. And then the Buddha said, Kondana, do you see now? Do you see? And Kondana said, yes, he saw. What did he see? He saw things as they really were. He no longer had his khandhas obscuring or corrupting his view of the world. Yeah. So that is a long story to talk about the power of a declaration of truth. Okay. So coming back to the commentary about a declaration of truth, Therapiyadasi says that usually, if you want to make a declaration of truth, you say, by this truth may, then you say what you have to say. So virtues referred to so what are the good things that you can base a declaration of truth on? Is that you have never hurt a living being, or you have performed virtuous deeds such as generosity, kindness, or let's say religious devotion, So there are a lot of examples, like I said earlier, if you have paid attention to the sutras, one of which is when he became the Buddha and he was challenged by Mara. So Mara came to the Buddha and he tried all kinds of things to stop the Buddha from gaining enlightenment. And the Buddha called on the spirit of the earth, Mother Earth, to bear witness to the Buddha's perfections of virtue. And the Buddha talks about all the good deeds that he has done for many, many lifetimes, giving up his life and acts of kindness and all that. And the earth actually responded, because what the Buddha said was true. And so as an act of declaration, I think the earth quaked 6 different ways, and then Mara retreated. Another example is one I shared with you all before. Before he became the Buddha, and this was before he met his 5 disciples, And this was after he, if I'm not mistaken, after he had received the meal of milk porridge. And then he went to bathe in the river and he took the bowl. And so there are two bowls in this story. I don't remember which bowl is this, but what happens is the Buddha, after he took the bowl, he placed the bowl on the river, and then he declared, he made a, like, kind of make a vow, but it was more like a prediction. He said that if he is to attain Buddhahood that very evening, the bowl will float against the stream. That means the water flowing in one direction, but the bowl will actually float in the opposite direction. Yeah, and the boat did float in the opposite direction, and so there was another declaration of truth. There are many stories about this declaration of truth. Yeah, both in the Jatakas as well as in the sutras. Not just the Buddha, but also the Buddha's disciples, which I will keep for next week. Yeah. So now let me ask you all, what I shared earlier, maybe I'll show you again. There you go. What does that sound like? It's a major Mahayana practice. What does that seem like?
Making a vows?
Yes. Oh, okay, I'm so happy. Yes, making a vow. You see the connection? All right. Okay. For those of you who don't see the connection, all right, you read the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra, and you come to the section where before he became Earth Store Bodhisattva, she was the daughter of, and her mother had passed away, and because of her sincerity, she met an arhat, and the arhat was able to help her find out where the mother had ended up. So what she did was this: she made a vow. She said, "May my mother be eternally separated from the hells, and after these 13 years, may she be free of her heavy offenses and leave the evil paths." All right, so that's the intention. And it says, "O Buddhas of the 10 directions, have compassion and pity me. Hear the far-reaching vows which I am making for the sake of my mother. If she can leave the 3 paths forever, leave the lower classes, that means the 3 destinies, 3 lower destinies, the animal realm, the ghost realm, and the hell realm. Leave the body of a woman and never again have to endure them. Then, before the image of the dust come one pure lotus eyes," that was the Buddha during her time, "I vow that from this day forth, throughout hundreds of thousands of tens of thousands of millions of kalpas, I will rescue living beings who are suffering in the hells for their offenses and others of the 3 evil paths. I will rescue them all excuse me, and cause them to leave the realms of the hells, hungry ghosts, animals, and the like. Only when the beings who are undergoing retribution for the offenses have all become Buddhas will I myself accomplish the right enlightenment." After making this vow. Okay, so that is what you see on your screen right now. Okay, you make an utterance with regard to your own virtue, or followed by a resolution. So she was able to help her mother, and then she made a vow: if the mother can leave the lower realms, then she will not just help her mother, but everyone, rescue everyone from the 3 lower realms, or anyone undergoing suffering. Okay, and that's why I say that's why it says in the second section, second sentence, is such a statement is believed to effect a wonder-working power that can benefit oneself and others, depending on the truthfulness of the person making the statement. Truthfulness here also means sincerity, how much you mean it. All right. Okay, so that's why reading about the Parittas are so interesting, because you just see how connected the Buddha's teachings are. Okay, all right. Now, Do we have any questions? Because it's time. It's more
I
than
have a
time.
question, Dharma Master. You
Yes,
mentioned something. You mentioned something about reading. There was sutras that you can read for your kids to be protective. Which sutras are those?
Read for your children to be protected. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Well. Okay. Let me show you this. Okay. So there are not official. Yeah, there are. It's accepted that there are 24 Parittas, and then out of this 24 Parittas, these are the more popular ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 here. It is used for various purposes. Like the Mangala Sutta is for blessings and prosperity. And then specifically against fire is known as the Vata Sutta. And then there's another sutta called the Attanatiya Sutta, or is also known as the Paritta of the 26 past Buddhas. It contains the names of 26 Buddhas. And for there's I don't remember mentioning one for children, but there is one for easy delivery for expectant mothers, and this is the Anguli Mala Sutta. Why is it known as the Anguli Mala Sutta? Is because the namesake Anguli Mala was the mass murderer who had murdered 499 people, wanted to murder his own mother for number 500. Saw the Buddha, thought the Buddha would make a more fitting number 500 victim, finally became an arhat, and he's known. If Buddhism was Catholic, or we use Catholic language, he would be the patron saint of not pregnant women. Yeah, you could say pregnant women, but specifically when you deliver, for a safe delivery or safe birth. Yeah, he will be the patron saint of safe births. Yeah, because he made a declaration that after he had, I'm not sure, after he had followed the Buddha or after he became an arhat, he never had a single thought of animosity or hatred, something like that. And by that, he helped the woman give birth. Then from then on, he became this patron saint, Buddhist patron saint of safe births. Yeah. So I don't remember for children, Saha.
Okay, thank you, Dharma Master.
Okay. Now any more questions? Okay, then let's dedicate merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Realm Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, I'm Etofo. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you.